Alright, you guys, I know you're probably wondering who this creepy Dahmer-looking guy is up here, and for those who don't know, this is not Dahmer, okay? I know it has a striking resemblance, but this is Ray Bucky, okay? And for those who don't know, and I'm just now learning because this happened in the early 80s and I was born in the later 80s, but he is part of the McMartin Preschool trial where he was accused of molestation, pedophilia, Satanic, ritualistic, creepy-ass shit, right? Now, mind you being, he was acquitted, and also Miss Peggy, his grandmother and mother and all his family was also involved in this trial, okay? Because the accusations were for them against their preschool. Now, mind you being, I had to go in further because this case definitely piqued my interest, especially when I looked at their pictures, because being a psychic and looking at their pictures, I picked up some really huge, heavy energy from them, and it wasn't good, okay? So they can try to cover up and hide all they want. Intuition don't lie. And judging by these pictures of these people, there's definitely some dark satanic stuff, and they were on to something. But as we know, when it comes to things like that, there are people in higher spaces that protect these kind of people, right? And in a lot of cases where there's someone who accused of pedophilia and things like that, those elitists will present themselves to people like him who are already interested in doing those kinds of things with children, nasty things and stuff like that, and they will approach them and they will say, hey, I got this X amount of money if you do this, this, and this, and this. So it's kind of like a little henchman, okay? And being that they had a preschool, that was a perfect place for them to, you know, do stuff with whatever they wanted. And the accusations became so ridiculous that people didn't believe them. And I think that's exactly what they wanted to do. They wanted to give the children's credibility. They wanted to make it like they was making up stories, that they were coerced by this lady. And I honestly think that she was hired by them too. I think she was one of them, the lady they hired, because they definitely wanted to tarnish these children's credibility on their stories. And there was, what was funny, because I watched the movie today, The Indictment, and it's based on the trial that they had, because this is one of the most high-profile cases they've ever had. They spent $1.5 million trying to figure out what happened with this case, okay, and who was guilty or whatever. But even though they tried, what I found funny in the movie was, even though they tried to paint them like some innocent people, especially the grandmother, like, oh, it's a sweet old lady, she's a model citizen and all this stuff. They really tried to go really hard in painting them as good people. But there were definitely hints in the movie, throughout the movie, that this guy was exactly who they said he was. And besides the fact that he did some weird things, like the underwear he had, walking around with his genitalia hanging, no underwear, with shorts on while he's at the preschool, just weird stuff, okay? But there was one particular scene in that movie that kind of just stood out.
Pornographic pictures, huh? Gotta be out there somewhere.
Do you see this creepy energy?
Oh, and get the FBI to check out
You see how she can feel something is not right? Look at this, holding the baby for his creepy self.
What's more interesting is also the fact that he was so heavily invested in this thing called pyramid power. So much so that he had attended conventions and a little pyramid hat and all such kinds of symbolism, okay? So say what you want, the symbolism and the facts are there, okay? Whether they try to cover it up like the elitists always do, because we know that they highly protect the pedophiles. And in this case, we see this is one where they protected them and they covered their tracks very well, to where they were acquitted. And stranger so, his sister still teaches. Her teaching license was reinstated, and Ray Bucky changed his name and became a lawyer and moved to the Northwest. So we have these people still, some of these people still walking among us, and you probably never even know. That's some food for thought.